Hey guys, welcome back. In this video, I want to talk about something that I don't know if people are considering about the FLR networks. So as you all know, we have FXRP on the FLR networks now. That is a derivative of XRP. You basically lock your XRP on a escrow account on the XRP ledger, and that allows the F asset agents to mint FXRP on the FLR network. And then if you want to go back, you burn your FXRP, and then you receive XRP back on your vault. What I want to talk about is this. Sometimes the price of FXRP, well, unless somebody takes the opportunity, there's always going to be a gap between the price of FXRP and the price in the centralized exchanges. So whenever that happens, you have the opportunity to sell at a higher price somewhere and buy it cheaper. Sometimes the price of FXRP is higher against the price of the centralized exchange, and sometimes it's underpriced against the centralized exchange. What that means is that we have the liquidity providers. These people are allowing people to do trades on the FLR network. Sometimes it's between FXRP and USDT0, and the other big pool of liquidity is the RaFLR FXRP pool. What that means is that anytime that there's a difference of price, like I was telling you guys before, that creates an arbitrage. So the more liquidity, the more arbitrage that people can do, because like if there was, I don't know, 100K of liquidity, then with a few $1,000s you would move the price. But if you have 100 million of liquidity to move the price a couple cents, that means a lot of money needs to go through that pool to move the price back to balance. And like I said before, like it's going to happen, because if you can see a price more expensive and you can buy it cheaper somewhere else, like why wouldn't you do it? So this is good. This is positive. This is part of how these DeFi economies work. So you have the liquidity providers that provide liquidity for people to do the arbitrage, like I was saying. That creates volume. Volume creates fees, which then those fees go to the liquidity providers. That means that the more arbitrage that happens, the more volume that happens, the more fees that happen, the more people are incentivized to do liquidity pools. As you can see here, for FXRP on SparkDEX, the total value lock is 2.39 million. The trading volume for the last 24 hours is 3.14 million, which is pretty big. The 7-day is almost 23 million. That's insane. And the last 24 hours on SparkDEX, it has done $2.5 thousand. And then on Enosys, as you can see, there's less liquidity, but the fees divided by this amount of people are higher. So if you want to do concentrated liquidity, then I would recommend that you do Enosys. If you want to go a little bit wider because you don't want to be managing your LP, then SparkDEX does a little bit better. Now, so this is one P. This is one part of the piece. This is for liquidity providers. But then the other part that happens is that if I'm selling XRP on FLR, I'm buying it on the exchange. At some point, I'm gonna run out of XRP on FLR. So what I need to do is I need to rebalance my two pools. That means that I have to withdraw my XRP from the exchange, send it to FLR, and mint it. So now I have more FLR, more FXRP, and then I have some XRP left on my exchange for when the price reverses, and then I have to do the trade differently. Every time you redeem, you're paying, that's not the one I want to show you. Yeah, here it is. For 100,000 FXRP, you're paying 100 XRP plus 2,000 FLR. That's 100,000 XRP, right? This means that if we had 30 million in volume, imagine how many fees were paid just for minting and for redeeming. This is pretty crazy. The other thing that is happening, which I find extremely fascinating, is that because now, as I showed you before, one of the pools that has a lot of fees and liquidity is the RaFLR FXRP pool. That means that whenever somebody's trading one or the other, it requires liquidity from both, and they kind of drag each other together. So what I think is going to start happening is that whatever XRP does is going to be moving the price of FLR with it. And it's going to be a win-win, because if XRP is doing more, then that means that there's a lot more volume happening on FXRP. So that means that there's more demand for FLR. Why? Because to enter FXRP, you need to have FLR, you pay gases. And then on top of that, you have the collateral pools where you can deposit FLR or USDT0, and then you get a part of these fees that you're getting. That's a pretty low risk operation, but I mean, it adds up. And if you have some FLR just sitting around or some stables, it pays better than in the bank. Guys, you're not bullish enough. This is insane. If I go check the latest F assets, we have almost 65 million minted on the FLR networks. That's 128 million FXRP. This is insane. Like, this is the most successful XRP product ever. We don't have the institutions in here yet. Firelight announced today that they're launching December 3rd. So when that happens, I expect this number to go north quite happily. So in the same way that the real value from XRP is not necessarily the price appreciation because of speculation, but if you need to move more volume, that network needs to be more expensive so it can handle it. So for example, let's say that XRP is at $10. Then the same 128 million that we have right now, that becomes 645. And that means that nobody else minted FXRP. But just to give you an idea how the volume and total value locked on the FLR network can increase with the price of XRP. The price of FLR cannot handle that volume. So then the price of FLR needs to go up. It's the same thing. The price of XRP will go up when more people are using the network. So if we start getting big institutions or big banks doing their operations there, XRP cannot remain at that price, because then you need too many XRP, and that creates too much slippage and price impact on big trades. So to be able to do transactions that are maybe $1 billion per transaction, XRP needs to be multitudes of price higher so that you can sell less XRP and move the price much less. That is going to drag XRP on FLR as well, and by itself it's going to drag FLR to go with it. So I'm not giving price predictions. I don't like price predictions. I think that they're hopium. You're expecting somebody to give you a price prediction. It might not, or it might overshoot by a lot. So if you're bullish on XRP, at least pay attention to this. If you don't want to bring your XRP, you can bring some FLR or some stables, buy some FXRP, so then you have your XRP on your wallet and save cold storage and you don't touch those. But you can have exposure to the benefits of XRP exactly for the reason that I'm telling you. So as I said, you do LPs. The LPs provide liquidity for the arbitrage. The arbitrage creates volume, and the volume creates fees. The fees give incentives to LPs. And lastly, I want to talk, this is my app, DeFi Tracker Pro. I'm in the FXRP RaFLR pool. I can make a video of why I chose that pool and that pair. But basically what I'm doing is that whenever people go in to FXRP from FLR or out of FXRP into FLR, they're using my liquidity. The price, the initial versus the current, is lower because we know that the prices have been going down. But in the next iteration of the app, I need to show this in terms of USD value, which this is going to be lower because each reward that I'm getting is worth less. But if this APR wasn't based on the amount of crypto that I'm accumulating, and in this case, I'm getting paid fees, every time somebody sells FXRP, they pay 0.3% fee to the pool, and everybody sells RaFLR, they pay 0.3%. So the fees that I'm making here are FXRP and RaFLR, which are two assets that I'm extremely happy to hold long-term and accumulate more. So when this is happening, and the arbitrage that I was telling you, it doesn't matter if the price is 50 cents or $10. That price gap is going to happen, and that volume is going to happen, and those fees are going to happen, and more people are going to provide more liquidity, which then in case creates more liquidity for the arbitrage. Guys, you're not bullish enough. Take care. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.